God's Day, October 22, 2022, Sabbath, Saturday, Philippine Time Zone, 5:57 morning. Continuation of Destinator, Chapter 4, Integrated Planetary Earth Calendar, IPEC. By Michael Dawn, narrated by Jane Diva Precious. Now, we can proceed to follow the marking of the flow of time on Earth, initially from 0-1, Adamic year count, going to our age, and momentarily arriving on the 3578 Adamic year, when Jerusalem fell and the Holy Temple was destroyed. The 3578 uninterrupted years, from 0-1, Adamic year, to the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple by Nebuchadnezzar's forces, can now be computed with the solar year value or duration. Time tracer. Adamic year count. Events. Solar year. 0-1, Adam and Eve, 4450 BC. 1056, Noah's birth, 3394 BC. 1656, Adamic year count, events, Great Flood, 2794 BC. 2006 AYC, Noah's death, 2444 BC. 1949 AYC, Abraham's birth, 2501 BC. 2021 AYC, Abraham's entry to Canaan, 2426 BC. 2035 AYC, Ismael's birth, 2415 BC. 2049 AYC, Isaac's birth, 2401 BC. 2124 AYC, Abraham's death, 2326 BC. 2109 Jacob's birth. 2341 BC. 2205 AYC, Joseph's birth, solar year 2245 BC. 2222 AYC, Joseph's enslavement in Egypt, 2232 BC. 2239 AYC, reunion of Joseph, Jacob, 70 Jews, and beginning of Israelite stay in Egypt, 2211 BC. 2256 AYC, Jacob's death, 2194 BC. 2315 AYC, Joseph death, start of slave treatment for the Israelites, 2139 BC. 2589 AYC, Moses' birth, 1861 BC. 2669 AYC, Freedom Day of the Israelites, led by Moses on the first Passover, 1871 BC, solar year. Adamic year count, events, solar year, 2669 to 2709 AYC, Israel's wandering years, 1741 BC. 2709 AYC, Moses' death, 1741 BC. Events, Joshua and Israelites enter into Canaan, Judges rule in Israel, Book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 20, 450 years, Samuel, Saul, David, Solomon's birth, 3145 AYC, Solomon's start of rule, 1305 BC. 3149 to 3156, start to completion of Holy Temple, 1301 BC. 1294 BC. 3185 AYC, Solomon's rule ends, 1265 BC. Rule of successors after Solomon in Judah. Adamic year count, 3164. Events, Rehoboam's birth, solar year, 1286 BC. 3185 AYC, Rehoboam's rule starts, 1265 BC. 3202 AYC, Rehoboam's rule ends, 1248 BC. 3202 AYC, Abijah's rule starts, 1248 BC. 3205 AYC, Abijah's rule ends, 1245 BC. 3205 AYC, Asa's rule starts, 1245 BC. 3246 AYC, Asa's rule ends, 1204 BC. 3211 AYC, Jehoshaphat's birth, 1239 BC. 3271 AYC, Jehoshaphat's rule ends, 1179 BC. 3239 AYC, Jehoram's birth, 1211 BC. 3271 AYC, Jehoram's rule starts, 1179 BC. 3279 AYC, Jehoram's rule ends, 1171 BC. 3457, Ahaziah's birth, 1193 BC. 3279 AYC, Ahaziah's rule starts, 1171 BC. 3280 AYC, Ahaziah's rule ends, 1170 BC. 3280 AYC, Athaliah's rule starts, 1170 BC. 3286 AYC, Athaliah's rule ends, 1164 BC. 3279 AYC, Joash's birth, 1171 BC. 3286 AYC, Joash birth, 1171 BC. 3286 AYC, Joash rule starts, 1164 BC. 3226 AYC, Joash rule ends, 1124 BC. 3301 AYC, Amaziah's birth, 1149 BC. 3226 AYC, Amaziah's rule starts, 1124 BC. 3355 AYC, events, Amaziah's rule ends, solar year 1095 BC. Adamic year count, events, solar year. (3339 AYC), Oziah's birth, 1111 BC. 3355 AYC, Oziah's rule starts, 1095 BC. 3407 AYC, Oziah's rule ends, 1043 BC. 3382 AYC, Jotham's birth, 1068 BC. 3407 AYC, Jotham's rule starts, 1043 BC. 3423 AYC, Jotham's rule ends, 1027 BC. 3403 AYC, Ahaz's birth, 1047 BC. 3423 AYC, Ahaz's rule starts, 1027 BC. 3439 AYC, Ahaz's rule ends, 1011 BC. 3414 AYC, Hezekiah's birth, 1036 BC. 3439 AYC, Hezekiah's rule starts, 1011 BC. 3468 AYC, Hezekiah's rule ends, 982 BC. 3456 AYC, Manasseh's birth, 994 BC. 3468 AYC, Manasseh's rule starts, 982 BC. 3523 AYC, Manasseh's rule ends, 927 BC. 3501 AYC, Ammon's birth, 949 BC. 3523 AYC, Ammon's rule starts, 927 BC. 3525 AYC, Ammon's rule ends, 925 BC. 3517 AYC, Josiah's birth, 933 BC. 3525 AYC, Josiah's rule starts, 925 BC. 3556 AYC, Josiah's rule ends, 894 BC. Solar year. Adamic year count, events, solar year. 3531 AYC, Jehoiakim's, Eliakim brother of Joas, birth, 919 BC. 3556 AYC, Jehoiakim's rule starts, 894 BC. 3567 AYC, Jehoiakim's rule ends, 883 BC. 3549 AYC, Jehoiakim's son of Jehoiakim, birth, 901 BC. 3567 AYC, Jehoiakim's rule starts, 883 BC. 3567 AYC, Jehoiakim's rule ends, 883 BC. 3546 AYC, Zedekiah's or Mathaniah, uncle of Jehoiakim, birth, 904 BC. 3567 AYC, Zedekiah's rule starts 883 BC. 3578 AYC. Zedekiah's rule starts 883 BC. 3578. Zedekiah's rule ends 872 BC. 3578 AYC. Fall of Jerusalem with the destruction of the Holy Temple, 872 BC. There are periods mentioned in the time tracer concerning Israel and its rulers which do not have the exact recorded duration of rule like those from Joshua going to David, but the continuous count of years are provided for in the first book of Kings, chapter 6, verse 1. 480 years after the people of Israel left Egypt. During the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the second month of Zib, Solomon began work on the temple. In connection with the computations in the actual time linkage, which is not a time conversion but an integration of shorter biblical year into the longer solar year, the following are presented. 3578 AYC RBY, Adamic year count, biblical year times 29 days of solar year longer than AYC BY equals 103,762 days divided by 365 days for one solar year equals 284 years and 102 days. About the 5 hours, 48 minutes, 46 seconds, which accumulated for 3,578 Adamic years, count biblical years, (3,578 AYC biblical years times 5 hours equals 17,890 hours divided by 24 hours for day count duration equals 745.41667 days and 10 hours. As to the 48 minutes accumulated in 3,578 AYC biblical years, 3,578 AYC BY times 48 minutes for the hourly count duration equals 171,744 minutes divided by 60 minutes for the hourly count duration equals 2,862 hours and 24 minutes to be divided again by 24 hours for the day count duration equals 119 days, 6 hours, 24 minutes. As to the 46 seconds accumulated in 3,578 AYC BY, 3,578 AYC BY times 46 seconds for the minute count equals 164,588 seconds divided by 60 minutes equals 2,743 minutes and 8 seconds divided by 60 minutes for the hour count equals 45 hours and 43 minutes and 8 seconds. For the computations, 284 years, 102 days, or 3,578 AYC biblical year times 29 days. $745 days, 10 hours, 3,578 AYC BY times 5 hours. 119 days, 6 hours, 24 minutes from 3,578 AYC BY times 48 minutes. 45 hours, 43 minutes, 8 seconds. Or 3,578 AYC BY times 46 seconds. Plus 284 years, 295 days, 64 hours, 67 minutes, 8 seconds, plus 2 days, 13 hours, with the 64 hours reduced to 2 days, 16 hours. 64 hours divided 24 hours. 284 years, 297 days, 16 hours, 67 minutes, 8 seconds. 968 days plus 1 hour, 7 minutes. 284 years, 297 days, 17 hours, 7 minutes, 8 seconds. 968 days, 284 years, 968 days, 14 hours, 7 minutes, 8 seconds. Now, for the actual time linkage by integration, 3,578 years, Adamic year count or biblical years, plus 284 years accumulated equals 3,862 years. Now, the integrated solar year value and 297 days, 17 hours, 7 minutes, and 8 seconds. This is the actual flow of numerical counts of time from 0-1, Adamic year count, biblical year, when Adam fathered Seth at the age of 130 years. Going to the moment or date when the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple, took place when Nebuchadnezzar's forces attacked. From 0-1 Adamic year count, biblical year, on a descending line in moving to our present age, the total number of uninterrupted, continuous count of recorded years reaches 3,578. This 3,578 is also the date or moment when the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple, took place when Nebuchadnezzar's forces attacked. Going into the process of integration, which places the count of 3,578 Adamic year count, biblical year, into the mainstream of the flow of time using our present solar year, value of 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds, the count of 286 solar years, and 238 days, 14 hours, 7 minutes, and 8 seconds, is reached as the accumulated count in the passage of time for 3,578, shorter Adamic year count, biblical year, span of time, and the result is 3864 solar years. Now an integrated year count. For the equal dating in BC count, a certain time linkage is done, which is simply attaching, pegging, tacking, or connecting these 3864 solar years with the 586 BC count for the date of the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple during Nebuchadnezzar's reign. To have a value of count in BC, this 3864 is made to flow again towards 1 AD. For 586 solar years, now having the total of 4450 solar years from 0-1 solar year, formerly 0-1 Adamic year count, biblical year, when Adam fathered Seth at the age of 130 years to 1 AD. It is now easy to climb or ascend in the count from 1 AD to 0-1 solar year in BC, dating which naturally produces the value of time passage of exactly 4450 BC solar years. Also now the dating for 0-1 Adamic year count, biblical year. In connection with this time tracer, it must be pointed out that the following dates and figures appear. 1. That the date 872 BC equals to the span or length of time passage for 3864 BC marks the first dating of the fall of Jerusalem, destruction of the Holy Temple. This 872 BC is finally marked and indicated as the same 586 BC date in world history, chronological in direct consideration of the accumulated 286 years, 238 days, 14 hours, 7 minutes, and 8 seconds. In moving forward to our age, we stop exactly at 586 BC. Moment. 2. That 4450 BC is the same dating for 0-1 Adamic year count, biblical year, when Adam fathered Seth when he was 130 years old. Having reached the 4450 BC count, using the present solar year value, in this 4450 BC being equal to the date of 0-1 Adamic or biblical year when Adam fathered Seth. All other dating points will be easily pinpointed. Now, as we go along with our time tracer by way of time travel through the IPEC, integrated planetary or calendar, we will be more at ease wherever our destination will be. Now, 4450 BC and moving forward to our present day, one of the most elusive basic or points 250. Years. Some historians say that 1 AD has an error of 4 to 6 years and must be added at 4 BC or 6 BC, is noted by this researcher, but hereby adopts the date 1 AD as placed in current world history chronological count. To be continued.